Dude, we have football tomorrow. It's a real, honest to goodness, Buckeye Friday. Welcome into the best damn pod in the land. Dan, I'm excited. I know you got to watch some football last night, but man, we have actual Ohio State football tomorrow. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much real football we watched last night.
Okay.
I checked the Colorado North Dakota State game.
Okay.
No, actually, that was an entertaining game.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is an absolute beast, and
Yep.
you know, I don't like the antics and all that stuff, but Shedeur Sanders is a tough kid.
Yeah,
he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was good to get the blood, flowing a little bit. Is it sad that I'm already depressed that we've got to bye in 3 weeks?
I was actually
2 weeks. Actually,
yeah.
2 weeks from tomorrow, we don't have an Ohio State football game, and I'm depressed.
Yeah. I was actually going over the schedule with my wife because we put it on the calendar, so she knows like what I'll be doing from when to when, and if any of the game times have been announced, and what games I'll be like at, those kind of things. And I was like, dang it, I forgot we have a bye the third week of the year. And she's like, oh, good, that's the weekend we can go to the pumpkin patch. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Go apple picking. So
I think we've got to buy. I think we've got to buy after Oregon too, right? So that's when we'll probably do our. That's when we'll do our pumpkin patch.
Yeah. So here, guys, prepare for your pumpkin spice lattes and pumpkin patch and apple picking. So here we go. But we are in the midst, Dan, of our blitz to 500 subscribers. I don't think we're going to hit 500 before tomorrow. So we're going to go ahead and extend it. I want to give the gift card away. We talked about the Western Michigan game. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody, breathe and everything. So why don't we set it as the Marshall game? We'll see. Give ourselves a little more time, try to get that 500 mark by the third game of the year before the Big Ten schedule kicks off. So I think and if by then we haven't hit 500, Dan, I'm just going to give it away anyway. So
yeah. Now I'm happy we have the bye week because that gives us a few extra days to make it happen.
We only need 90 people. So some of you must have 90 friends. I feel like somebody, I don't. I have like 5. But some of you know a lot of people. So let's tell them about the pod.
Are we back up to 410? Because I know we're at 410, and then we went down to 407 after last week's show, which I can't help but to think had a little bit to do with one of the topics we discussed. But it is what it is.
Oh, we're at 409. Sorry.
Okay, so we went back up. Yeah. Hey, real quick too. I got my Buckeyes hockey sweater on today, just to pay homage to Johnny Hockey. I can't believe the news that came out. I actually woke up to it this morning, and there was some stuff in my Twitter feed, and I couldn't find anything anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There was something on a Reddit page about it, and it got to the point to where it was kind of like, okay, if this is not true, you think that there'd be some sort of statement or acknowledgement at this point. So you started to get the heebie-jeebies about it. And then sure enough, it was confirmed that, Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew were killed by what appears to be a drunk driver last night while they were out riding their bikes. So just tragic news, 31 and 29 years old, the day before his sister's wedding. I can't even imagine.
No, it's
what that family must be going through right now.
Yeah, it's awful. And the day and the time and the world we live in, you'd think people wouldn't, would be more alert of bicyclists, I guess, because there's bicycles everywhere up here. Constantly. I actually kind of complain about it, but I understand it, and it's sad, and I can't imagine the parents and the sister what they're going through. So it's just so upsetting in this day and age of rideshare to even think about getting behind the wheel of a car, even after one drink. I mean, I haven't drank in over a year, but if I was going out to dinner, and even if I was going to maybe have one or two cocktails, I took a Lyft, man. I didn't even take my car. Didn't even think about it. Didn't even present the option to myself. Yeah, in a city like Columbus, there's so much availability for that stuff too.
Well, this happened just to be clear, this happened in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's where he's from. They were back there for a wedding.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get to the Zipperoo kangaroos that are named after galoshes, which are boots that zip, Joel Klatt, man, you know, I really, really don't get it. I think his defense of the Michigan title, there has to be something more going on. Maybe he was giving them videos. I don't know. But to imply that the part at the bottom, Dan, and I'll hand this to you, was firstly, dude, you played at Colorado. Colorado's like a MAC school. Okay. So claiming like, you know all this about football and championships, you don't. He might know a lot about football. He calls a lot of football games. I don't deny that. But to imply that if we think advanced scouting didn't have an impact or outcome in a positive manner for Michigan, that we're dumb. Come on, man. Or we don't know that much about football. He literally said the less you know about football, the more you think that it impacted them winning. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't understand the shade that's being provided for them at this point. Now, I was pleasantly surprised after that mockumentary dropped. I'm going to use your word. Last week, there were quite a few national voices that came out and finally said they need to be.
Bless you. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that.
Right.
Damn allergies. But, I was surprised that there were quite a few voices that came out last week and, did say that they needed to be, punished. Listen, here's the deal. I understand the narrative that's trying to be spun, which is, hey, they got caught and they stopped and they won it fair and square at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's some truth to that. Who knows? Do we know for sure? I don't know. I mean, let's assume that that's correct. It's just turning a blind eye to the whole thing, which is upsetting, which is just disappointing. It's just the naivety that it wasn't known. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not even talking about it well today because it's just so nauseating at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think my frustration with it is that I don't understand how you go from Jim Harbaugh's teams being a mid-fest to, them being perennially, in the playoffs and not think that helped them. I realize you still have to stop the plays. I acknowledge all of that. I get it. But knowing the direction or the general area that a play is going to be going,
Here's the thing. I think it helped them the most in the games where they needed it the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the big games, the tight games, Ohio State, when a tight game is suddenly can be blown up, because of a few plays. That's where it matters.
Yeah.
If you beat, Rutgers or Michigan State 49-0, did it matter? No, of course not. You were going to win that game regardless. And that's the thing that is just irritating, is that they didn't need to do this.
Yeah.
Like he changed his staff. He built a good roster. He had super seniors, but it was just so much in his head after the 19 season and the COVID year. You had his recruiting guy, Matt Dudek, come out and say, we were told to cross the line when it came to recruiting. Do you think it was just recruiting?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Ward Manuel on TV the other day or on the Scam Web show. And Scam Web, man, that guy's a freaking idiot. Like, is he – I mean, he's just a moron.
Yeah,
I've
he's a
never
super
really
homer.
sat there and listened to him talk, but it took him like 1 minute and 49 seconds to ask a question. The guy's he is. Anyways, but I mean Ward Manuel, man, he's running interference right now. He's setting up the cover. Let's make no mistake about it. I mean, for him to say that, we'll fight when we need to fight, but, and he said this 2 different ways throughout the course of that conversation. But if we broke the rules, then we need to go ahead and acknowledge that and work towards rectifying it. He said it 2 different ways, and he made it a point. And he made it a point that he's not falling on the sword for anybody that may have done that. I thought that was really interesting. But one of my, and I'm sorry I'm going off a lot on this, but I've just so much has happened in the last few days with this. But one of my biggest takeaways was Scam Webb asked him about the NIL and why it took a while to get moving. And Ward's answer was just so indicative of what that culture is like up there, not just in football. But his answer was, well, we got off to a slow start because when NIL first got started, we were under investigation for some violations. And we didn't want to find ourselves in another investigation or situation. Well, how about this? Follow the rules.
Yeah.
And you won't find yourself in another investigation or looking at sanctions. Like you have to pause NIL efforts because you're worried that you might break the rules. I mean, it's just, and when you look at what's going on with the hockey program and the basketball program, like it's a mess up there, man. It's a mess.
Well, that's why the Ward Manual getting like the administrator of the year or something is just beyond. Like the buck stops with him. So if his programs are a mess, it's on him. If I mess up a project, it's on me. Like I don't know. It bothers me, but it is what it is. So Dan, I don't know if you caught this the other day, but LaCharles Bentley, really well known in Northern Ohio here in the Catholic Football League, very respected. Jumped on another program and did an interview, and I thought the interview was good. I thought it was entertaining. I enjoyed.
I thought the interview was great. I thought it was great.
So I sat, I actually just put it on my phone and sat and just listened. I didn't actually watch it. I just listened, and the content was great. I think LaCharles Bentley is very well spoken. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of curious as to, some of the things that have been out there, like the Will Conroy situation, and I just really like LaCharles Bentley. I'll just say it. I think he made a great coach.
I know you said you didn't watch it, but did you at least peek at the Joker?
No, I just listened to it.
I mean,
I was driving.
Holy cow, he is jacked. He is. I mean, he is in such phenomenal shape. It's a testament to what he's doing with these guys in the NFL and their diets and stuff like that. But so here's my biggest takeaway from it. And probably the most surprising thing is that he would be willing to be the offensive line coach at Ohio State.
Okay.
I was really surprised at that. I just figured that a lot of these guys, like you've heard Orlando Pace say, man, I don't want to do all that. I don't want anything to do with what it means to be a college coach these days. And, and then he's got this successful business. It's like, does he really want to walk away from that? But he loves Ohio State. Make no mistake about it. He said as much. And
Orlando Pace, Dan, I don't want you to get it, but like he's enjoying watching his son too. His son's a senior. So let's make sure we, I know Orlando has said he doesn't really want to coach, but he's also enjoying watching his kids. So go ahead.
But, LaCharles enjoys coaching.
Yeah.
And he enjoys training people, both mentally and physically. But, so that was my biggest surprise moment of that interview was him, verbalizing that he would be open to it.
Okay.
Now, I do think, and we were texting back and forth about this. I don't know if Ryan can handle his personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can tell that he is very opinionated as to the right way to do things, and may not be very,
amenable,
flexible on that.
Yeah.
And what he sounded like to me was a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He sounded like a leader.
Yep.
Now, I've gone back and forth since then because Ryan was willing to bring in Bob O'Brien, or Bill O'Brien, rather. Bob, we call him Bob, so Bill O'Brien. And that was certainly a very strong personality that he didn't really have much of a history with at all. So maybe, Ryan does seem to be in this serial killer assassin mode, which I love. So maybe he'd be willing to do it. There's so many things that play there. I do wonder if what he said regarding Justin Fry may have hurt his chances to get that position if it opens up. Because I was also surprised that I thought he delivered a message to Justin Fry. I got to go back and read the transcript or watch it again. But, make no mistake about it. He said, listen, I want Justin Fry to do well because I want Ohio State to do well. If he does well, Ohio State does well. And that's what I want. And that's what I hope for. But if you fall short and you don't do your job, then make no mistake about it, you need to go. I thought that was a pretty strong statement.
Yeah.
And I think that was a message. And I think knowing what we know about the Will Conroy situation
mm-hmm.
and what it took to get his offer, I can't help but to think that was a little bit of a message. And I wonder if Ryan would take that, wouldn't feel very good about that.
Well, Will thinks a lot of LaCharles too, because LaCharles has been helping mold him and create him as an offensive lineman. So, obviously there's a bond there. I think Will said something to the effect that like he has had one of the biggest impacts on his life, so on and so forth. So, yeah. I get it, man. I think all of us are just kind of circling the drain with put up or shut up for Fry. It's time. Like you've had your opportunities. This class again is not what we were. I guess we really thought we were in on a couple of 5-star elite tackles. So here we go. We'll find out what it looks like this year.
Yeah, but he made some really good points about the logo doesn't matter as much as it used to.
Correct.
And we've talked about this on the show. It doesn't matter as much as it used to. The world is a lot smaller than it used to be. These kids can see everything they need to see about schools on the West Coast on social media. I think we may have talked about that before.
We touched on it, and I think you did a great job explaining it. That back it up 25 years ago, Ohio State, enormous brand, Florida State, enormous brand, Alabama, so on and so forth. And you could see them because you could see them on TV regularly. Now, like, in the late December, you can catch Mount Union and Montana State playing each other. So you can see what those programs are about. College football has changed, which means the brand recognition and draw has changed.
Yeah. And make no mistake about it, the brand is still there.
Yes.
It's still one of the largest, if not the largest brand in the game. I think there's 4 or 5 brands that are all kind of right there.
Yep.
It's the logo and what it means to the kids today.
Mm-hmm.
They're more willing to leave
their
home states or their dream schools to go and play somewhere else if they don't feel like they're getting the love that they deserve.
Right.
Or if, some cases NIL. It's a different game, man. It's a different world. And his other point was, you need to be humble when you go into these kids and realize that you're serving them. They're not serving you.
Yep.
And
1,000%.
he more or less in a roundabout way said, you need to be a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really starting to think, Chad, that there's a business to be built around going in and providing sales training to coaching staffs.
Yeah.
As it relates to recruiting.
I think my only hesitancy about that, and I agree with you. Agree with you that there is some selling that has to be done when it comes to recruits for your university. But I'm a big person on authenticity. Like I can tell if somebody's not authentic with me, and I think as a parent, I would want that for my kid. Because I don't want them to sell me on, like, you can sell me on how great the university is. You don't really have to with Ohio State, because I already know. But there is life after football, those kind of things, and I think real life Wednesdays are a huge part of that now. And then now that we have the NIL set up, and then some of the opportunities that they have locally with businesses, there's my goodness, Cardale Jones will probably never pay for another car or meal in his life. Just those are the kind of things that I'm talking about when you come to Columbus.
Yeah. But don't mistake sales with getting somebody to do what you want them to do. When I say sales, and I've been in sales my entire life, I'm talking about learning what's important to people.
Mm-hmm.
Learning who the influencers are in a player's life and what's important to them.
That's good. Like Uncle Jimmy over here,
Yeah,
he's the one pulling the strings.
Yeah, learning how you have to talk to certain people based on their personality type. You can have 4 people that all have the same question, but based on their personality type, they might have a different reason for asking that question, and they might need a different answer to that question than the other 3 people standing next to them. There's so much more that goes into sales that I don't think a lot of these guys truly know or understand. Like, they'll say all the buzzwords. Yeah, we need to build relationships. Yeah, mama's most important. Or, granddad's, he wants to stay close to granddad, like all those kind of things. But I wouldn't be shocked if these guys just vomit answers to questions and objections rather than truly understanding why they even objected or asked that question to begin with. And there's something to be said for that.
Okay. I get it. I understand that. And since we're kind of sort of talking about recruiting, we have a little bit of recruiting buzz for Ohio State, but right before we jumped on, I saw where the next Ben Victor, so Jamie French, committed to Texas. So you guys know, like we talked about maybe that Ohio State circling back on him. It sounds like they've circled back on Phillip Bell. So French commits to Texas, and in his commitment image from Hayes Fawcett are 2 Lamborghinis.
Yeah. So I always turn a side eye to people that say, oh, he went to the highest bidder, because I genuinely don't believe, that's why all these kids make the decisions that they do. In this case, I think he went to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
When he comes out and says he wants a Lamborghini deal, and then on the OV they have 115 Lamborghinis, which are with their engines revving, and then his commitment picture has 2 Lamborghinis in it. Like, there's certain things that were important to him that other schools weren't willing to do.
Yeah. I mean, if I was getting ready to play and at an elite level, and somebody came out with like a 1978 square body Chevy pickup truck, all decked out, I mean, I might be tempted to take it. Just saying. All right, guys. So on the Ohio State front, 4-star 2026 offensive tackle Michael Smith out of Fort Pierce, Florida. The number 10 tackle in the class has been Crystal Ball to Ohio State. So early commitment there on that one for the class of 2026. If he does commit, they're just going to have to fight to hold on to him. About another Florida kid, Dan. Long time to go between now and December of 2026.
Well, So Micah Smith, I believe, is at the same school as TJ Alford, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's made it known that he wants to come to Ohio State. Now he's one of the recruits that we've got feedback from that doesn't necessarily hear from Fry as much as you think he would.
Right.
And this is a top 10 guy at his position.
Right.
And
he's a tackle, like a true tackle.
Yeah,
like that's where he's going to play. He's not a tackle that might play guard. He is a tackle.
Yeah, and he's got a mean streak to him too.
Yeah, he looks like a heck of a football player.
Yeah. So, we got a few crystal balls this week for next year, which was interesting. I think it was Matt Parker that came out with them, right?
Yeah, he came out with a couple, and then so the other one that I really paid attention to. So we hit on Phillip Bell on Tuesday. A couple like Max Torres and a few of those folks threw a crystal ball in for Phillip Bell, but then Alex Gleitman did, and then Bill Kurelic did. So I got a lot of questions about that, and we got a lot of questions about that in the chat and on X/Twitter. About Jerome Miles out of Corner Canyon, like what that does if he wants to commit. Everything I can find out about it, Dan, and if you found something else out, because I know you have some friends in and around that school. Sounds like he's a heavy Utah lean. I really haven't been able to get. I mean, I know Brian Hartline would like to have him. I think they'd take both Bell and Miles, but all signs point to him wanting to stay in Utah, right? Like I couldn't find anything else out about it.
Yeah. So here's what I think happened is that I think we started to lose Bell. It became known that his mom, before passing away, asked him to stay close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's the story that was out there. So
it was awful.
Yeah. So it started to look like we might lose him to USC. So I think, it caused Hartline to go ahead and say, you know what, I need to go ahead and make a contingency plan. And, the kid in Utah, what's his name again?
Jerome Miles.
I keep wanting to say Noah Lyles for some reason.
That's funny.
Is that a One Direction kid?
I feel like, we had Jordan Lyle last year that decommitted.
There's also Jerome Miles. And he indicated right off the bat that Ohio State was his dream school. But again, we're getting in late.
Yeah.
Now I think it seems like Bell is starting to come back around, because you're also starting to hear excuses from USC that, we didn't really want him and he wasn't really a take anymore and all this other stuff, because I think they caught wind he was going to be leaning towards Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's so many things that go into it. Here it is. I think we would take whoever commits first.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd take both, because that would put us at what, 6?
Thought 5.
5 including BP?
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got Quincy.
I keep thinking of him as a quarterback. That's probably my problem.
Well, and again, I don't consider,
are they considering him an athlete?
No, they're considering, he was offered as a wide receiver.
Okay.
But we've got Quincy and we've got Dez. Are those the only two?
That's the only two I can remember.
Okay, well then I can see us taking both Miles and Bell if they both wanted to commit, because I think Miller's a project.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. He's still playing quarterback.
They don't have a choice at his school. They literally have nobody else that can play the position. There are some concerns within the Buckeye community that he could end up getting some legitimate QB offers before the season's over that could sway him, but I know he got an offer from BC. Here's the deal. I don't think his future past college is as a quarterback, but I think he could be a really dynamic college quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
If he's thinking beyond college, he stays at receiver and he goes to Ohio State. If he thinks that if he just wants to be a quarterback in college, then we could end up losing him.
Yeah, so it's BP Miller, and then let's see here, Dazay Jones, and then there's
Quincy Porter.
Quincy Porter, yeah. So
he had a highlight. He had a highlight last night in his game against IMG. He caught a little slant at his own 10-yard line and took it 90 yards and had a really nice stiff arm about 30 yards out from the end zone.
I saw it.
Took it across the field and down the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
He's impressive, man.
So that's impressive. So that's why with those three, I think given that BP is a project and he's absolutely going to redshirt unless they're using him as like a multi-weapon a la Jordan Marshall or something, you really would only be truly taking 4 that are wide receiver
like legit
ready.
Receivers right now. Right, exactly.
So I'd be okay.
Hey, speaking of Quincy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I'd be okay with that because realistically, you're going to lose Emeka Egbuka, and then you have another year of Carnell Tate. So and you're going to Ballard will be out of that room. Kojo will probably be out of that room. So you could build some depth that way.
I do believe that Quincy Porter's team, Bergen Catholic out of New Jersey, will be playing at Massillon next weekend. If they are, I'm going to go to that game. Yeah, I saw that in one of my chat groups this morning that they're at Massillon this next week.
I have to go look, but yeah, I have an in, so I can go. I might go stand on the sidelines for a while.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll let you know. We'll see how it goes. That might be a hard one for me to request, but we'll see how it goes. All right.
Hey, you can't be surprised by the answer if you don't ask the question.
Correct. So Chris Henry, speaking of recruiting news, he'll be in the Horseshoe this weekend for the Akron game, along with Caden Dixon Wyatt, I was going to say roommate, but teammate, a class of 2026 top wide receiver, will be in attendance with him. So that's cool that they're coming together. And then we did get this is really weird, a crystal ball for 2027 top 2 quarterback Brady Edmonds out of Huntington Beach, California, for whatever that's worth this early. So,
yeah, I think that all indications are that Brady Edmonds wants to commit early, sooner rather than later. Which is typical with the quarterbacks, right? Yeah. They're usually quarterbacks. It's pretty much become the norm at this point that they're committing before their junior year. Right. So, yeah. Now he's going into his sophomore year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he's 2027.
But he's getting into it. Yeah, that's the year Avery graduates. So he's getting a little bit ahead of it. But rumors, here's my concern with Brady Edmonds. If he's already 6'6", like, is he going to get any taller? Because the success rate for guys above that height just go down dramatically for whatever reason.
Their legs.
Yeah.
Their base. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, which is interesting. And maybe that's why he wants to commit early so that, he's got that commitment. But
I also think, too, that the 2027 commit is for Ohio State is because there's a gap year with 2026. At least you and I feel like there's a gap year there. That's probably a prime position to be in. If you want to go to QBU and that, the 2026 quarterback may not factor into the long-term plans and TSC's coming in 25, boy, what a chance. Like what a place to be if you're that class of 2027, talking about falling in a sweet spot, man.
Yeah. And that's why we've been talking about that 26 quarterback is kind of in a limbo year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was all based on the assumption that, Julian starts for 2 years.
Yeah.
Tabian starts for 2 years.
Yep.
I'm not going to get into this too much, but I'm not convinced anymore that Julian's the guy next year.
You think it's air?
I don't know. I don't know who it is.
Okay. That was me having
I don't know. I mean, I think Julian's really, really, really talented with his arm. I think he's got a lot more growing to do than people realize. And I just don't know if he's going to get the reps this year to really have that much growth.
Okay. I was curious to see what they would do. I mean, you and I both seem to be in the camp that they're probably going to redshirt Aaron Noland. So just curious what they'll do with that quarterback room. But
I wouldn't be surprised if they redshirt Julian.
Yeah, if he doesn't get in 4 games, yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's the last
Hey,
of the. Go ahead.
real quick tidbits on Chris Henry coming. I mean, there's a pretty good visitors list coming this weekend.
Mhm.
There's last time I saw, there's like at least 15 kids coming.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing about Chris Henry Jr. is that he's not being treated like somebody who's coming to visit for the first or one of the first few times. He's actually like kind of being a tour guide
Mm-hmm.
for these kids that are coming, including his high school teammates. So, there's a lot of chatter out there about him looking at other schools and things like that. I find it hard to believe that they would put him in the role of basically recruiter instead of recruitee for this first game of the year if they didn't feel really, really good about him sticking.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just the school that he's at, the fact that he went out to California from Ohio. There's a lot of that to that, but I mean, I saw somebody freaking out that I think Fahim Delane is taking a visit this weekend or something.
It's Naeem Offord. It's going to Auburn.
Yeah.
It's all clicks.
Yeah. Whatever.
It's going to be he is going to be the Jeremiah Smith of this class.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, the season's here, so I honestly like I told you, I've started to shift to the 2026 class anyways, because the season is upon us. Early signing days in December. Most of the kids that we're going to get we're going to sign then. If there's a big flip or something, but I just try to drop a little recruiting tidbits in there when they pop up, especially visitors lists. Like when I found out Chris Henry was coming with his teammate, I thought it was worth mentioning. So
yeah, well, and regarding the Naeem Offord thing, I just remembered something, just to put things in perspective. I'm pretty sure it was Hayes Fawcett. If not, it was on somebody at On3. They made a recruiting visit edit.
Yeah, it was a graphic from Hayes Fawcett with him standing in an Auburn uniform.
Yeah, he was like in an Auburn uniform with a chain on and sunglasses, and it said, visit. It's not even an official visit. It's just a visit. So listen, they know how we are at Ohio State as fans, and they do things to get clicks.
Yep.
Tell me the last time that you saw an edit for somebody taking an unofficial visit.
Yesterday for Naeem Offord.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, that's why he
engagement
puts
farming
Ohio
at its
State.
finest.
When he gets a commit, like we could have been just somebody that offered them, and it'll say over Ohio State, and we were never really in on him. We've seen it 47 times this year. They just do it because they like, and then we're the idiots to get on there and say we weren't in on him anyway, you jackwagon, and then it just drives up the the comments and the the retweets, and then he gets exactly what he wanted out of it.
I was pleasantly surprised they kept over Ohio State off of the Jamie French announcement, considering we weren't in the Final Four.
Yeah. Moving on. So we have actual football Saturday. So the Akron Zips come to town. I have a special place in my heart for the Akron Zips. It's where I got my undergrad. So Joe Moorhead is the current head coach, Dan, since 2022. He was the offensive coordinator at Oregon. He's a former Mississippi State head coach. He's the 29th head coach for the Akron Zips. Akron did not have a great year last year. They were kind of hard to watch. I went to half of one of the games for the alumni game. They went 2-10. So they bring in transfer Ben Finley. I don't really have a whole lot to say about him, Dan. I mean, I can tell you a little bit about him. He's from the class of 2019, so he committed in 2019, so class of 2020 to NC State, then transferred to Cal last year in 2023, and now Akron in the spring portal window. So I don't really know what to expect from him. He's been around football, so he's got some, I guess, experience.
Well, I'm gonna go Clubber Lang here and say prediction paid.
Yeah,
more picks than TDs tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Hey, little fun trivia, and may have given it away, but who was the last offensive coordinator to beat Ohio State at Ohio Stadium that did not cheat?
It was Joe Moorhead when he Oregon 2021.
Yeah, he was the Oregon OC. I think Jack Sawyer brought that up.
Yeah.
So he's looking for motivation everywhere he can find it for this first game. I don't think the boys really need a lot for this first game. I think they're going to be pretty stoked and pumped, and you know, the video that just came out, it's just a different vibe for the team this year, man.
Yep. Well, the fact that even Ryan Day is letting them wear like matching sweatsuits instead of like suits.
Do you think he's letting them do that, or do you think he mandated that?
Well, maybe he mandated it, but it was always suit and tie. I mean, gosh, even back as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I can't help but to think, and maybe this is just me liking it, I can't help but to think that, now that there's NIL, the suits over the last 2 seasons have become more of an individual statement.
Marvin Harrison's red suit. Yeah.
I mean, all of them, man.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see Burke at Big Ten Media Days, man? I mean, he looked like he should have been on the cover of GQ.
Probably will.
So it's like, how much time do you want these guys spending during the week to figure out what suit and shoes and jewelry they're going to wear?
Yeah.
Maybe, so who knows? I like it. I like the focus on team. I'm a team first guy. I want everything to be about the team. I don't know enough about the hotel situation as to, why they decided to not stay at the Blackwell. The only thing I can think of is on-campus distractions.
That blew my mind.
With co-eds, maybe.
Yes. So I've had the privilege 2 times in my life to stay at the Blackwell, and there are a lot of people around. Like, and if players come through with food or whatever, everybody's trying to talk to them, get autographs. There's a lot there. But I get it. It blew my mind though, because like that, there's 2 traditions that he just blew up. So. With the suits and the staying at the Blackwell. So
maybe this is embarrassing to admit. I didn't realize it was that big of a deal.
It's only a big deal for people that think it's a big deal. I mean, seriously, like I, if he got rid of the skull session, then I'd probably have
that's his favorite thing.
I'd probably lose my mind. But like the suits and the Blackwell, whatever.
Hey, speaking of which, Ryan was on a podcast the other day with D'Angelo Russell and some other, I think, former Ohio State athlete or student or something. Linkmeyer. What did he do? But anyways, it's like, I think it's called Backyard Podcast or something like that. But anyways, it was really good. It was a good podcast. But Ryan mentioned that they asked what his favorite tradition was, and he mentioned skull session.
Okay. So Akron does have 2 guys that I think will play on Sundays. In my opinion, the edge CJ Nunnally, he's probably the best player on their team. Going to be a tough test for either tackle, like a nice test for both Fryer and Simmons. And then I'd keep an eye on Alex Adams as well, the wide receiver. If you're looking for guys from Akron to just kind of be like, hey, that guy is a good player, those would probably be the 2 that I would point out on each side of the ball. CJ Nunnally, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up a 3rd round draft pick, probably, maybe even a little bit higher, given the way that people like defensive linemen in the NFL. So he's a pretty darn good football player. So watch out for him. It's not a Khalil Mack situation. He's not. I don't think he's going to single-handedly keep Akron in the ball game against Ohio State, or Josh Cribbs when he played for Kent and single-handedly kept Kent in the ball game. But I'd be on the lookout for that. Dan, since we're in actual game week and it is Akron, and we do expect this to be won handily by Ohio State, what do you expect tomorrow? How much do you expect to see out of DB33? How much do you expect to see out of some of the reserves? Are we going to see Sam Williams-Dixon? Are we going to see Mylan Graham?
Yes.
What are your expectations, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of people play. They cannot possibly go back on not getting guys in the game at this point. Like it's been almost a theme.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, we talked about a little bit about what Ryan's comments were, or maybe we didn't. That was after. Was that after our? Or was that last week? When did he make the comments about Devin being QB2? Was that on Tuesday?
Think it.
Or did we talk
I think
about
we
that?
talked about it on Friday.
Yeah. That maybe it was last Thursday that he did that. So, anyways, he said when he said, we've started to have conversations about where we're going to insert him in the game, whether it be the third series or the first series of the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, but not necessarily this week. So, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Will for the entire first half and maybe even the first series of the second half, just to go through that routine, right? You went into the halftime, you came back out, you had to get ready, you had to go out there and play.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to prep
series,
that, right?
Yeah.
So you want to get used to that process, because there's a chance, there's a case to be made that if wanted, our starters really don't need to play past halftime of these first 4 games. But you've got to get them used to going in and coming back out and playing at some point.
Do you think Michigan State's really going to be that bad?
I
mean, they're still a Big Ten school.
I mean, dude, CJ, I mean, he put 49 points up before the half when the last time he played him.
Yeah, I understand.
And we were up, 35-0 last year with Kyle at quarterback?
Yeah.
At half?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they brought a bunch of people in. I think Aiden Childs is probably going to put some points on the board for him.
Yeah, he can
extend. But yeah, no, I really don't expect them to give us much, if any, challenge at all this year. I think Jonathan Smith's a really good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've got the roster to hang. So, but my point is that they're going to have to get these guys used to coming out and playing in the second half at some point. Based on the way Ryan phrased that last week, I think they come out and play so that they can have that experience and that routine underneath their belt.
Okay. All right.
But then I expect the backups a lot more, exclusively in the second half after the first series. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a rotation in the first half at certain positions, especially along the defensive line.
Yeah.
I can see Jermaine. I think you'll see more of a rotation in the first half just because so many guys are legit starters on our 2 deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I want to see how Arvell Reese looks too, if they're going to put him in at Mike. I'm very curious about that. I'm curious to see Mitch Melton on the edge. Yeah, I'm excited. Be interested to see how much CJ plays. We'll see.
I mean, he's the 3rd starter at that position.
Yeah.
According to Jim Knowles and Ryan.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, real football.
Buckeye best bets?
Oh yeah. I was going to mention about the Akron game today, and we'd be going live afterwards, but
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That works for me. Hey, we're gonna do the best damn recap right after the game tomorrow. I'm not really sure what we're gonna recap, but we'll have something for you. If you want to tune in, we'll be live. Jump in the chat, ask us questions, 15 or 20 minutes, and then Dan, I'll kick it over to you for the prop bets.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little segment each week moving forward. I'm gonna go ahead and do Ice Sharks Buckeye best bets for the week. I'm gonna pick 1 or 2 plays at sports books that I like. I don't personally gamble anymore, but I have in the past, but I enjoy looking at the lines. So if you do happen to like to put a little scratch on the games, I've got 2 plays for you going into this weekend. At DraftKings, and this is not the only place you can do this, but just looking at DraftKings, I like the first quarter total points over 13.5. Okay. And then I like the first quarter Ohio State minus 11.5. I like the total points better, but I'm really not worried about the spread either. I wouldn't be surprised if we come out of the first quarter up 21, 28 nothing with one defensive touchdown in there somewhere. But yeah, those are my best bets for the first Buckeye game of the year.
Cool. Very cool. Don't ask me anything about it. Ask Dan. I don't bet. I don't gamble. He literally had to teach me what the word prop bet meant before we got on the show. So please don't ask me. If you do, I'll just send you Dan's way. If you
it's
do,
just
ask me,
something
it's
fun to do with the game.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and post those on Twitter so that it's documented as well.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, guys, real football tomorrow. Like, subscribe. Don't forget to catch us after the game. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you make those wagers if you like to put wagers, and then give Dan kudos if he's right. If he's wrong, don't say anything. And you guys stay safe tonight. Be careful out there at the high school football games. Be ready for tomorrow. Kickoff 3:30. And we'll see how tomorrow goes. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a nice, easy Coast 2 win. So, you guys stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.